Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today I've got Grace Broom from Maria Grace. So welcome to the sofa.
Thank you for having me.
So we had your father on not so long ago, and we know he's a great talker and he likes to talk a lot. But you've braved the mic today to talk about your business because you do something very different. Do you want to share what you do?
Yeah, so I'm actually a photographer, but I do work in digital marketing. So I do actually work with my dad, but I do all of the photography, content making. That's where I thrive. That's what I prefer.
And how did you get into photography? Was it something that you did as a kid? Is it something that you just enjoyed doing and then thought, oh, wouldn't mind making a career out of it? Well, how did you get into it?
No, so I never actually touched a camera until lockdown.
Oh, okay.
I started working with a pastor at a local church, and we were filming content for their services.
Yeah.
And he had to literally teach me how to turn on this camera, how to prop it up, how to set it in focus, because I'd never touched a camera in my life.
So was this a video camera or just a normal camera?
It was a normal camera, but it had video settings. So
Okay.
we were filming. And then after, we were kind of doing all this for a couple of months. And then I got asked to do a podcast to film content for it. And I was doing behind the scenes photos. And I kind of looked at the photos and was like, actually, I didn't do a bad job of that.
Mm.
And then after, obviously, lockdown lifted, I was meeting up with people, doing shoots outside. And I was kind of thinking, oh, actually, I'm really not that bad at this. And then I kind of kept going and ended up being featured in exhibitions. I've had 2 magazine features, and it's kind of gone from there, really.
So when you were taking these shots at the time, then you saw the results. Did you then, as you're taking the pictures, were you getting more and more excited about the results that you were coming up with, which kind of fueled?
At the beginning, no, because I was taking photos, not really knowing what I was doing. So I'm looking at it on the camera thinking, this could go one of 2 ways. This could look really good, or it could also look really bad, and I would have wasted this person's time.
Yeah.
But as I kind of went along, I was teaching myself how to edit photos as well. So I felt like the further I was going along, I was looking at photos thinking, actually, I know what to do with this now to make it look good or better.
So the point there really is that you're experimenting, and as you're experimenting, you're learning.
Pretty much, yeah.
But some people can't do that. Some people get to that point of experimentation. They go, oh, what if it's all wrong? Were you ever perfection mode where it had to be perfect before you showed anyone? Or did you just keep doing it and got better?
And first I was just putting out what I thought was good.
Oh, okay.
And then I was looking at other people's and thinking, actually, it's not that good. So I think that fueled my, I need to get better at it sort of thing. Because I was thinking, well, I knew people that were posting the same sort of content, that they hadn't gone and studied it or, done it as from a young child. So I knew that if they've done it, so can I.
Yeah, that's it.
So I was like, what's stopping me from being as good as them?
And do you know what? That's such a healthy attitude to actually learning, because you'll find a lot of creatives often have experimented to get to where they are. They might have started in an area, let's say they might start as a graphic designer, but then they've experimented to become a photographer, so to speak. So there is a lot of experimentation in creative people generally, because it is a creative process. And I like the fact that you've highlighted that, you test, you measure, you try, you test, you measure, you try, and eventually you settle with what works. So did you find that as you were showing more and more people your images, you were getting a lot of decent feedback?
I felt like I was getting very honest feedback from my parents, especially my mum. Very honest. Sometimes a bit too honest. But no, I think when I was getting recognised from other well-known photographers in Bristol and London, I was like, well, actually, if they're saying it's good, then it must be all right.
Yeah, and so obviously you're getting that feedback and stuff. What did you do next? Did you sort of ask or offer to go on shoots with these guys to learn, guys and girls, to learn from them? Or
a lot of them actually put out content already.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they've probably already been asked to do similar stuff, to collab for people to learn and things. So it was kind of a sense of staying on my phone all the time, really, being on YouTube or being on their profile, kind of not copying what they're doing, but kind of looking at how they've done things and using that as inspiration or learning from it, basically.
And you know, obviously now you've been doing a lot of the photography for a while now. What do you enjoy most? Do you enjoy the studio stuff? Do you enjoy being on location? What do you enjoy?
I think it depends on what the actual shoot is for. So
Okay.
I really like being outside,
Yeah.
but obviously if it's raining, it's not as enjoyable.
No.
But I have a lot of people that are like friends with me, and they're like, "Oh, can we link up and do a shoot?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I know it's going to be fun because I'm already friends with them.
Yeah.
We already get on really well, and it's kind of like just hanging out with your friends, but you're taking photos at the same time, and you can kind of be silly along the way. But studio shoots are very different.
Yeah.
They're also they cost a bit of money to go
Yeah,
and
of
use it,
course.
so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the downfall. But I do try and tell customers, like if they're coming to me, I'm like, you know, if you want to do a shoot, I will try and push you towards going outside, because a lot of people don't want to spend loads and loads of money on photos.
So when you're doing, obviously when you're taking these photos and you're engaging, what are they? Are they model shoots? Are they product shoots? Are they a brand? What type of shoots are you? You know,
I've done a bit of everything, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I've done work with charities and like actually gone on trips with them. So I've been out to Moldova.
Nice.
We visited refugee camps when I was creating content for that.
Yeah.
Did a Christian festival a couple of years ago where I was out engaging with like young adults, like so ages 11 to 25, for the week, having to push out content that would relate to them. I've got people that want to be models and want a portfolio, and it's headshots they want, or sometimes it's people that are having a baby and they want photos of their bump and they want to remember their pregnancy. So it's literally such a vast range of people I'm meeting and taking photos of.
So how do you get the traction? Because obviously, is it purely through Instagram mainly that you're getting approached?
Mainly Instagram, word of mouth.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people come to me because they've been recommended by someone, because they've been, you know, Grace makes me feel really comfortable.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, I think people are really nervous to be behind the camera. And when they kind of like come and shoot with me, they realise that actually they don't need to be that worried about the camera. And a lot of those people have actually come back because they're like, you know, you made me feel so comfortable the first time. I'd love to do it again.
And when you're doing those shoots, how do you work? Do you show them, like when you go click and show, or do you wait till you've done a bank of shots and then go, what do you think?
I usually take a couple and then show them, because at the end of the day, I don't want to take a load of photos, them not see anything, then give them all the photos and them hate them. That'd be my worst nightmare. So I usually go through them beforehand, what they kind of want. So we'll go through something like Pinterest, and I'll get them to send me examples of what they're looking for, so I can be really specific in the product I'm then giving them.
Yeah. Have you got a profile on Pinterest as well then?
I do, and I have been posting on there, but I'm still a bit new, and it's quite hard to navigate the algorithm on Pinterest.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I had a friend that she basically was like a starving artist, and she posted a piece of artwork on Pinterest and it went viral. So she went from like wondering when the next job was coming to doing loads of stuff for big fashion houses. And she actually painted 3 massive great big mural type things and they were used in Dubai. And she had to literally hire a warehouse because they were like about 9 foot tall and about 2 meters wide. And she had to create these things, roll them up, and then they were posted, and they put them behind the main foyer desk. I think it's of the Dubai hotel, and then they put glass over the top of it. But it was an epically big job that she managed to get, but it was all because she just
Pinterest,
all on the back of social media and Pinterest. And that's what I kind of find really interesting with the whole photography space, is that with a social network like Pinterest or like Instagram, you are a moment away from becoming viral. And it's not necessarily you engineer it to go viral. It's, you know, if you shoot good and people like it, then you've got half a chance of more and more people liking it. And it doesn't always have any rhyme or reason. We took a picture of a Lamborghini in London, and I just posted it just randomly. And one of the sort of like car influencers got a hold of it, and then he started posting it, and my Instagram went crazy. And I was like, well, what's this? And you see all my posts, you know, the average number, and there's this Lamborghini, it's gone like this. So you know what, it can really help if you're just consistent. I think that's the key thing on that score.
I think people have been really struggling with social media, and I know there's a lot of creatives that are a bit like, what's the point? Because of the way the algorithm is now that all of the platforms have basically come under one hood, as it were.
Yeah.
A lot of small artists aren't getting seen, so they're just thinking there's no point in posting it because no one's going to see it anyway.
That's a really interesting thing, because I think the networks have changed to the point they're rewarding paid stuff, and if you're not paid, especially if you're starting out, then you're not going to get paid. So there is an opportunity there. How do you get that to the masses? Because I know Meta, for example, Facebook, you're almost non-existent if you don't spend anything. You know, it's really tough. So talk about a little bit then. You're doing photography, because obviously that's the discipline that you started in and enjoy. But you mentioned you were doing a little bit of video work as well.
Yeah, I now avoid that at all costs.
Do you avoid? Why would you avoid it?
It's a completely different kettle of fish when it comes to like the kind of clients you attract as well. I've learned early on that I learned the hard way that you need to take deposits, that you need to really know who you're working with as well, because I don't want to work with people that don't stand for the same things that I do, because I know that once they have my work and they're putting it all over their media page, people are going to then associate me with whatever they're then posting or promoting. And if it's not something that I align with, then I just tend to not want to work with them. And it's not like I don't like you. I just, at this time, I don't think it's appropriate that we work together.
But that's you knowing your client. That's knowing the personal profile that you do your best work for. You know, and again, that's obviously come through experimentation and a bit of pain, would I say?
Yeah.
You say, yeah, bit of pain.
Well, I've had pain even with some friends I've had.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of collabs that happen, because I think as creatives, they all want to work with you because well, I see it as a collab. That's if it was between me and you, it's a 50-50 partnership.
Yeah.
We're coming together to contribute what we both have together.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people, I think, they try and collab, but they don't actually want to contribute their whole percentage, if you get what I'm saying. They just want to come and then kind of use you a bit, really. It's a nice way of saying it. I've had people that have wanted to collab, but they don't want to contribute to financial costs.
Right.
But
so
to
you
me,
pay for all the kit and the equipment.
Well, it's studio time and things like that, and getting there and then editing time, and they don't see that. They just see the hour session that they've arranged, and sometimes I've been out of pocket because I spent 200 quid on a studio fee. Yeah. And it's a bit unfair.
So from your perspective then, what are let's take five learnings that because it seems to me that you've taken this step and you're almost learning on the job, but as you're learning on the job, you've felt a bit of pain, and then you've mentally logged it and go, right, I'm not going to do that again. So what are the top 5 sort of learnings that you've had since you've kicked off?
To always take deposits.
Number 1, always take deposits. So when you went down that route of always taking deposit, how much deposit would you normally take?
To begin with, it was a really small deposit, and then I realised that actually it needs to be an amount that people are going to get upset about if they cancel it.
Yes.
So I usually take about 50% deposit.
Yeah.
Because that then covers, usually, if I've booked a studio, it covers the studio fees. If they cancel, I've not lost anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wasted my time, but I've not lost any money.
Yeah. So the first one then, always take a deposit. So why, because we're educating people, right? So there are people listening, they might be wanting to become a photographer, and we're trying to educate them and help them. Obviously, when you're starting out and you're going, asking for money is often the hard, worst, isn't it? You just don't want to do it. Is that kind of where you were? Why you wouldn't take a deposit?
That was where I was, because I was a bit like, I don't want to take people's money when they've not even received anything from me yet.
Yeah.
But when I had cancellations like last minute on the day, it's like I've booked a studio because I'm third party booking, and I'm like, I've now had to fork out to pay for the studio that I can't cancel now. Yeah. And sometimes I'd be in the studio waiting and they're just not turning up.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, I could have been shooting my own content, or I could have been outside or working with someone else, or I've turned people down because I've got a booking,
Yeah.
and then they've not turned up. So I've lost money either way.
So you've learned that to, because of the pain, it's like, I have to ask now,
Yeah.
and you're not as apologetic for it.
No.
Cool. So that's the first one. What's number 2?
I'd say lay out exactly what you're offering.
Okay, so be very clear or expectations.
Up front, yeah, because I think sometimes people expect more than what you're
What do you mean
proposing.
sometimes? Everybody does.
No, but I think, I don't know, people I think forget that there is that editing process. So I've had to be very clear that, you'll probably hear me taking 100 photos, but you're only going to get probably a certain amount because I'm going to go through those and maybe half of them your eyes are going to be shut.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to send you images that I'm not happy with. Or if they're blurry, I'm not going to send that to you.
I'll tell you a funny story, because we had our wedding pictures taken by a pro photographer, and there was one picture where it looked great. This is almost the days of Photoshop and digital photography where it was just starting out. So he actually took our shots with a digital camera, of which was a Hasselblad, and it was the digital back end, which at the time was about 10 grand. So it's like 20 odd years ago. But he showed us this picture, and I've got my eyes closed, and he wasn't brilliant on Photoshop, to be fair to the guy. So he tried to edit my eyes open, and then he put it in our book. And when I looked at it, I was like, it just looked scary. It looked really, really scary. Oh. Now, I know if I'd given that to like maybe George, one of my team, they probably would have pulled it off. But this was, we were like going through, and it's like, oh, I look really scary. And I think people don't, when they do photography, understand that there is an editing journey behind it. It's not more than just like an Instagram filter that you apply. You want to maybe take some wires out, or like change a background, or whatever it is. There is this skill and there's science of editing that people almost take for granted. They think you get the shot on the day and then it's done, when in fact actually when you open it up, you look at it and go, oh, I forgot about this. But because of Photoshop. And is that what you use, Photoshop, to do editing?
Yeah, I use Photoshop. But I had a bit of a scenario where I did a family shoot. It was a mother and I think 5 kids.
Yeah.
And I'd not done such a big family gathering before. And when I came to editing, the time I was taking to edit was so much longer than I first thought, because I was having to get rid of wires, like you said, windows and plug sockets in the corner, or one of them had their mud all over their shoe, and I was having to go through each photo and individually edit all these things out.
Wow.
But obviously I so severely undercharged this person because I just didn't think it'd take that long for me to edit.
And do you find now, like, because you're used to the edit process, when you're actually taking the shots, you've got that in mind now? Yeah,
I try and think, how can I take this image without giving myself so much editing to do?
Yeah.
If I'm in a studio, especially, I've been to places and I'm using a backdrop and it's covered in dust, but that's a nightmare to have to think about editing, because when you're editing a photo of someone, you're looking at them, and I think the background's kind of like the sort of thing I look at afterwards.
Yeah.
But then when you kind of you've spent hours editing this person or whatever, and then you get to the background, you're like, oh, there's loads of dirt or dust that I've now got to work through and get rid of.
Yeah.
So I try and make my set as clean as possible.
So you've got the first one, which was deposit. The second one is setting expectations. Yeah. What's the third one?
Be clear on, it kind of ties in with the expectations, is being clear on when you're going to receive photos, how the session's going to work.
Delivery, yeah.
Because I think there's so many memes on Instagram about people leaving a studio and they're getting a text already, when's my photos ready? And it's like, if I could, I would. Honestly, I'd edit so quick and just have them sent off away, but it does take hours to do, and my bad habit is I tend to go home and edit straight away, and then next thing you know, up till midnight.
Okay.
Finishing editing their photos.
But then you're setting a crazy expectation.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I do charge for a quick turnaround.
Okay, good.
But I usually
say... But that's come through pain, I bet?
Yeah, I usually say, it's 2 weeks, then you have your images.
Yeah. We live in an instant culture, right? So I know people want to get it quickly, but if you're doing a professional shoot, you still need to take an amount of time. I was messaging me and Rob's our head of production, and we were talking about clients and, you know, like going backwards and forwards, and there's a load of memes out there. And, you know, you'll find that you'll do a professional shoot, you put all the lighting in place, or you shoot a video, which is perfectly done. And then the creative control is being dealt with by somebody that knows nothing about the business, the story, or whatever. And you'll go, somebody's daughter saw it and they thought it'd be better if you did this in green. And you're like, where does that relate to anything? And yet that becomes the client requirement, you know? So when you talk about managing expectations and memes, there's loads on that score, you know. I think there was, can you put lipstick on the pig? You know, it's like crazy things like that where people are, you setting expectations. You're like, what I get in this camera is 90% it. The extra 10%, if it's not there, it's just enhancing what I've already got. It's not.
But when people say, "Oh, you can just edit this out, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I need you to come prepared, because you're going to look like that, but, you know, maybe slightly enhanced. But that's why I've banned things like fake tan, hair bands on wrists, because it's like, you know, people just go, "Oh, it's fine though, you can just edit out." I'm like, well, no, I'm trying to make my editing process a little bit easier.
But these are all details that people don't pick up.
No, but that's all stuff I've learned anyway, where I've taken a whole shoot with someone who's got really dodgy fake tan and it's coming off all on their wrists, and then I'm having to go through every photo and edit it out, and it's just unnecessary hassle.
Yeah. I've seen this guy that people write to a guy, you might know who it is, but like on Instagram, when they say, "Can you edit my photo?" And then they edit the photo, and it just gets worse. So like, you know, can you take I'm split up with this guy, can you take my ex-husband out? And they just like put a car in front of him and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're quite fun actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what people expect you to be doing.
Yeah.
They expect you to be doing these massive editing changes, and really and truly, unless you're paying extra, you're only really, like, you know, getting rid of a few blemishes and brightening or whatever. You know, you're not doing anything really crazy.
Yeah, 100%. So when you're like, you know, you're delivering and stuff like that, how do you deliver? Do you deliver via an email? Do you go and turn up? What do you do to deliver? What's the process when you've done your photo shoot, you've done all your edits, you're really excited because you can't wait for them to see it?
So I actually send them via a gallery now.
Okay.
Back in the day, I used to send it via WhatsApp.
Oh.
Which is really unprofessional. But it's the only thing I could send it on that would deliver the photos with the quality, because I was too scared to ask anyone, how do I send these photos to clients and you know, retain their quality without paying a fortune for a subscription? And I didn't really want to ask anyone, so I had to just kind of figure it out on my own. But I stumbled across someone, and they sent me photos via this gallery, and I was like, actually, this is quite nice.
Yeah.
So that's what I ended up doing, and everyone really loves it.
So when you take a shoot, you talked about, you take like about 100 shots, let's say. How many would you deliver? 10%, 20% of that shoot?
On average, if I'm taking, for an hour, let's say, hour session, I'm delivering maybe 50, 60 photos.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a lot though.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of editing.
Yeah, a lot of people you'll go to, they'll be like, yeah, you'll have 10 photos.
And with your, you know, you do the shoot or whatever, I take it they are royalty free, rather than rights managed. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some photographers that take the pictures and they license them, and you can only use them for certain things.
No, they can download them straight from this gallery.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You're not like that.
No. Obviously, if they're using it, if they're going to go and use it in, say, you know, some models submit their stuff to Vogue, things like that. If they're going to do that, then obviously, one, you have to make me aware, because obviously when you submit things, they do actually ask for the photographer and things like that. So with things like that, I need to be made aware. But I've got no problem with people sharing stuff and using it as long as I'm credited.
And that's an interesting one, because that doesn't always go on, does it? Editing, crediting. And I think it's become more of a thing because of the emergence of AI as well, isn't it?
Well, recently I actually had, I did a campaign for a magazine. I'd been asked to contribute as an individual, but I then went away and created a team of creatives that I knew hadn't featured in this magazine before, and they were unlikely to have that opportunity at that time. So created this team, really, really talented people involved. We went and did this shoot, had makeup artists there, stylists, had all sorts of people there. And when I saw people posting the content, they were basically crediting the magazine for the opportunity, and there was no mention of me, basically. And it was a bit of a stab, because it was like, well, you wouldn't have been doing this if I hadn't asked you. I didn't have to, but that's the sort of person I am. I like to bring people in on opportunities.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like, oh, well, what was the point in that?
Yeah.
What's the point? What's the point if you're not going to tell people, like, you know, that I was the lead, really?
But it's interesting, because that goes on, and people don't get, you know, and in creative world, it often does. You know, people take your work and say, look what I've done. And it's like, well, you probably did like one bit of that, you know. I see it in graphic design, like when we'd use a freelancer in, and then for whatever reason, someone I knew bumped into them, and they'd be presenting all their work as if they come up with all the ideas and all the wisdom and all the knowledge and all the build, and it'd get back to me like going, do you know what they actually really did? No, what's that? Well, they just did the logo of the first concept, of which wasn't chosen. And so I think there is that thing of creative transparency that needs to be there. So I think we often overlook those credits, but they're actually really good. We actually won a job because we had very small, we asked the client, very small on the flyer we wrote, designed and produced by Creation. And we had .co.uk on there. And this person took it, saw it, and then commissioned us as a result. And it was a really big job that they got just because they saw who had done it. And I think, you know, even if you're handing stuff out, wherever possible, ask the question, can I put my credit on there? They might say no, but if they say yeah, it could actually open the door to some bigger opportunities. So we're at number 3. So what's number 4?
Ooh. Number 4, I'd say, depending on who you've got, who you're shooting with, I tend to take someone with me.
That's a good shout.
And I'll call them my little assistant, but it's because they're there to not only assist me, but they're there to then be accountable if something was to, say, go wrong, or something was said. I've got a second person there to basically say, well, hold on a minute, actually this was said because I was there. Yeah, they're getting behind the scenes content for me as well, which is great, but it means that, especially when you've got people that are, say, a bit younger, they've not got their parents with them, whatever, I've got that extra person to be a bit of extra support, not only to me, but also to them. I found that I take a girl with me and she does all my content for me, but she's like the little hype man as well. She like makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. Because sometimes it can feel like you've got a bit of a crowd when you've got other people in the room. Yeah. But this individual is really good at actually just being really happy and joyful in that room, and it makes the client a lot more comfortable. Yeah, I think that's also underlooked. So, you know, like I was an art director, so I'd always be in a room with a photographer, and then to some degree, yes, we got a skilled photographer who knows what they're doing, but there was this element of me art directing them as well. And at the same time, definitely there was always somebody that was client handling, making sure they're okay, you know, that sort of stuff. Do you need tea and coffee? Or, you know, you makeup okay? Do you want to take a makeup break? You know, those sorts of things. So I think you're right. Definitely starting out as a photographer, going in twos. We often consider, I just do it with my camera on my own. But having somebody with you is a really good tip. The thing is as well, if you're meeting a client you don't know, especially if it is outdoors, you're essentially meeting up with a stranger in the middle of nowhere. So unless you already know them, I would always take someone with me, because anything can happen. Because, you know, if you're in a studio, it's different because there's a lot of cameras there. Can we meet at night in a woods on your own to take a photo shoot? No. Worst nightmare. Yeah. But that's exactly why I do prefer using a studio with someone I've not met, because I know that the studio manager is probably going to be there when I get there. Yeah. Which makes me feel a bit safer. And also, I know there's a lot of cameras everywhere, so if anything was to go wrong, it's very unlikely they would, but if it did, I know that I'm kind of backed up. But it's a really interesting point, because people, like, common sense goes out the window. It's like, just because they're a paying client, we like suspend all sense of
normality.
Yeah.
You would never normally go to a remote place on your own with someone you never met before.
No.
But because they paid you money, it's like, oh, okay, then.
Yeah, I have to because I've been paid to do this now.
So,
But
you know,
I would not do that anyway. If someone was
No.
like paying, I would just be, oh, actually, I don't think I'm the right photographer for you.
yeah.
But
Yeah, or you just got a team of people or a drone that's flying over over above to take them out. So for me, you know, like with the aspect of delivery and stuff like that, and you're a photographer, there's that element of art direction, isn't there? That you're trying to be creative, but also trying to get the shot right technically. How do you find yourself needing, as the shoots get bigger, that you're going to need more people like that, like more art directors, or do you think you'll be the art director and you're employing a photographer? How do you
if it's
see
a
that?
personal project,
Yeah.
because I'm the one with the vision,
Yeah.
obviously I don't feel that I can ask someone else to then come and direct because I'm the one with the vision.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could explain it to them, but they're not going to see it the same way that I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that is good when I've got an assistant, because I am photographer, I'm directing,
Yeah.
I'm a stylist,
Yeah.
I'm your hype man, I'm everything in one. And when you've got, like, you know, props that need moving and stuff, that's the last thing you're thinking about, but that's what drains you the most.
Yeah.
So when you've got that person with you, you know, this girl that I take with me, I don't even have to ask her. She's doing it before I've even asked.
Yeah. It's
Because
good.
she can see, like, that I'm looking at it thinking, that's in the way.
Mm.
And she's already there, done it.
Yeah.
But that's brilliant, because then I can really have all my creative juices flowing and not have to stop and think, oh, I've got to move that chair, or there's dirt on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing is that as an art director, or having an art director's eye, you know, it's more than just clicking the button. There's a load of stuff that goes on. And although the frame's only like this, there's a whole load of activity that goes all the way around it that you've got to be aware of, you know. I mean, I've been in shoots where it's been going on and I've not been in the room, and there's another art director and I've come in and like, he's got one collar in and one collar out. Did we not notice that? You know, things like that it needs an extra pair of eyes where you get so immersed in it that someone can see it almost immediately. So that's really good. So that's number 4, isn't it? What's number 5?
Number 5, I'd actually say it's more to do with making your client feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got this thing where I've watched people have their photo taken and you can tell they look so uncomfortable because they're being asked to sit in a certain way or dress in a certain way.
Yeah.
And like with modelling jobs, obviously some of those things you can't really avoid.
Those, you know,
you can't really avoid that. Can't really avoid those things. But when you're doing like personal projects, or if this was like, you know, for them personally, if they don't feel comfortable, it's going to really pick up on the camera.
Yeah.
You know, I always say to people, the first 5 minutes, the photos are going to look really stiff. You're going to look really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's because you're getting warmed up into it. And then after that, you'll be fine.
Well, because it's an unusual thing, right? It's not something you do every day. So it's going to take a little bit of time for you to get into it.
But as you have conversation with that person and you start, you know, laughing or joking around, they're completely relaxed.
Yeah.
And that's the real them, and that's what you're trying to capture. So the first 5-10 photos, they just get disregarded anyway, because they're going to be really awkward photos of this person because they don't really know what to do. They don't know
of course.
where to look. But that's my 5th one, to make someone feel comfortable.
Have you ever found when you've done a shoot that someone's just like a natural, where there's like, oh my gosh, this is like it's like easy for them? Or do you feel that everybody has to work at it?
I feel like everyone has that warm-up period, like I said, but I've had people come in and think they know what they're doing.
Okay.
And they pull this model face. There's this model face where they go like this.
Everyone's got a game face.
And I'm just like, okay, you need to relax, because you can tell they're like really trying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, just relax a bit, because that's obviously not really the real you. But there are people that are really photogenic, that like, you know, they're sat really comfortably in front of the camera. They don't really get nervous, and therefore they look the most natural behind the camera. But I haven't really had anyone that's come in and just been like perfect the whole way through.
But that's an interesting one, because obviously people say, I'm not photogenic. Is it not that they're not photogenic? It's just the photographer can't take a decent picture, or the individual's not great?
I think it's people that don't like photos of themselves.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, yeah.
because I think everyone can look nice in a photo.
Yeah. Well, we all look good in the mirror, don't we? Right? We always we got our look and then we're off.
Yeah.
You know,
and then you see a photo of yourself the same day and you just think, oh, do I really look like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I that's why I show people what I'm taking as I'm going through. And I usually pop up mirrors in places as well, because then they can see what I'm seeing. Because, I'm one of these people that I could have my photo taken and I always tilt my head. And then I look at a photo afterwards and I'm like, why am I tilting my head? It looks awful. I just need to keep it straight. But it's because it's just a go-to.
Yeah.
But that's where I could do with having that mirror so I can see exactly what the photographer's seeing. Because the photographer doesn't always know what your insecurities are. I do try and ask people, I go, is there anything, that you really don't want me taking a picture of? Or is there a position that you'd really hate?
Yeah.
Things like chins and like hairlines, those sort of things are what people are mostly insecure about that I've come across. And it's, being able to then take photos with them that works around that.
Yeah.
So they can still have photos that they think they look nice in, but you've just not focused on those areas.
So do you get the client the subject ever trying to art direct you?
No, I always like having their input though, because if they're a paying client, it's their photos at the end of the day. If it's a personal project for me, I'll take some of their input, but it's my vision that I've asked them to come on, be part of. And I'll implement some of their ideas, but if I've got a clear direction I'm wanting to go in, I'm not going to sway off and do what they want me to do.
Yeah.
But I think most people that I've worked with, they kind of know where they stand and they don't really try and boss me, as it were. They just do as they're told, really.
No, it's awesome. So from that perspective then, what's the future look like? I mean, obviously, you've begun the journey, you've experimented, obviously you've highlighted 5 learnings along the route, and I'm sure there's 25 of them. But what does the future look like for you? Do you want to grow a studio of photographers? Do you want to not do the clicking of the button and be more of an art director and a concept artist and then has a team that delivers? What does the future look like, or are you still trying to figure that one out?
I feel like I am still trying to figure that out, but I think I still do want to be very much involved with bringing in groups of creatives to work together. Yeah. Obviously, like that project I was telling you about, I've learnt from that. So I think going forward, I've been looking into doing some exhibitions, but being a bit more public so that, we've actually got general public coming in, looking at people's work. So it's not such a closed group, if you know what I'm saying. So, I'd like to do things like that. I'd also like to do more social media, but for other people, because obviously currently I'm working for my parents. Yeah. I feel like you're very limited after a while because we're not creating new product all the time. It's the same product all the time that you're having to then market in different ways. Yeah. Which can be quite hard because it's not the most exciting product either. Yeah. So I think doing more social media as well is definitely something I'm looking to do.
Yeah, because I think this is that aspect of social media where we've all snapped with our phones, and obviously the phones got better and better and better, but the creative behind it, that needs someone who thinks about it a little bit differently.
I get so excited with social media, new campaigns and new trends that are coming out. I just want to try them all, but they don't always fit with what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's I really want to do that, but it doesn't work with what we've got.
Yeah. So getting a few more other clients where you can try those things out and see what works. So in terms of photography as a medium and whatever, do you feel that there's a bit of a blur between phones and high-end kit? Do you think we'll eventually just be doing everything with a phone, or do you think there's always that need or that call?
I think people like the authenticity of the camera. Yeah. I think it doesn't create the same image. And I have had a lot of people try and book with me when they find out how much I charge. They go, oh, well, I'll just take it with my phone. Or they go, oh, we don't need the editing. We just need the photos. And I'm like, well, just take it with your phone then, because you know, if you want professional photos, I can give that to you, and that's how much it'll be. And if you don't like that, then I'm sure one of your uncles can use his phone and take the photos you want. Yeah. But I think people are experimenting with the phones and all this AI stuff, but I think ultimately people are still gonna want that experience, really.
So I work with a guy called Alistair Morrison. He's putting a lot of his photos in the National Portrait Gallery, and we did a movie for him telling his story for British Airways. So a lot of his photography is in the National Portrait Gallery. Famous people like Oliver Reed and Helen Mirren, all the people because he used to work for the Times, was one of the Sunday Times was one of the things. But he's almost gone full circle in the fact that he's photographed commercially, but he's actually come back and said, you know what, I want to do the arts behind photography and focus more on that, which obviously he's got this bank, he's been successful, whatever, and that's what he does now. Where do you see it? Do you see the campaign stuff as interesting enough, or do you see the photography as a point of art as well, and that's something that you'd have a look at? Because you mentioned exhibitions, for example.
I think going forward, photography will be more of an art rather than my business. I think my business will probably turn into more of either coming alongside other photographers,
yeah,
or going fully into the social media side of it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like things are changing now, and not everyone wants to pay for your experience,
yeah,
because they are just saying, well, I can just do it with my camera,
yeah,
with my phone. But that, I think, initially was what I was going into when doing photography. I did see it as a creative outlet. It wasn't a money-making
it's just
scheme.
grown. Yeah.
It was just me going out taking photos and then like fiddling with it, really. So I think that's probably what's going to end up happening for me.
Yeah, the other aspect to that is that you change the rooms that you're in. And the people that you talk to, where they're willing to pay decent money. Because I think for me, if you've got an eye, particularly as an art director, you can tell a professional shoot versus someone that's done it himself just by framing and of all the skills and the tools that come with a camera, the grids and that sort of stuff. You got to have an eye for it, and ultimately that's why you pay pros versus amateurs. And I think the difference between an amateur and a pro is you just keep practicing, you just get better and better and better, and eventually people go, wow, we want you to engage you and use you to be able to achieve it. So how would someone get in touch with you then? If they want to go, I love what you said today. There's two types of people that might get in touch with you. Aspiring photographers that may want to collaborate, and also people that are going, you know what, actually, I've been wanting to do a shoot for a while now. How do I get in touch?
I'm actually on every social media platform.
Everyone.
Obviously, I have to be because I'm, all over social media, but I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, got my own website, Instagram, Threads, TikTok.
So just for the viewers, what's your easiest way? Through the website or a DM through Instagram?
Either. I'm going to respond. I'm just always on my phone.
You're always on it.
Whatever you message me on, I'll respond.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, Grace, it's been really insightful, and I know a lot of people got some value of those tips and insights and the journey, because I think a lot of people don't just start, and I think that's what you did. You just took a risk, just started, and you've just begin to grow and grow and grow. And as I said, I see a lot of your stuff come through, and this is what you're up to, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and more ambitious, which is awesome. But yeah, taking time on us, I think, is going to help a lot of people either just start or actually go, you know what, I need to do this professionally. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it, and be successful in life on their terms.